funny how friendships begin. I first met Robert at Millfield School while I was teaching carpentry to the daughter of King Hussein of Jordan. The classes were very small. Robert came into my class one day and sat down on my bench, chewing on a pork pie, and said, "Are you the guy with the Mini Cooper?" He had a rare Lotus Elite, and on the first day had parked it in the headmaster's space, so he kind of made his presence known. Robert taught English, and his wife Susie taught art at Millfield. I later lived with them, and it was Robert who introduced me to the Dove Centre Crafts Commune. I knew they had moved to Bath, but I also knew they had friends in Glastonbury, so almost intuitively I drove down to Glastonbury from London. By astounding coincidence, our cars crossed on the road. Robert's Lotus Elite and my Mini Cooper. We used to race to get to our Millfield job in time. We stopped off in a lay-by. Robert said, "I think this calls for coffee back at my place." And so we did, and they kindly gave me the best front room in the house. Wow. Once settled into our communal household in Bath, I looked for work and got a job as a trainee designer with a local furniture factory called Arcana. It was part of the Christie Tyler Group, the largest in Britain, previously known as Bath Cabinet Makers, and my job was on the shop floor churning out mass-produced furniture. The experience was probably the most valuable alongside my earlier training at Shoreditch College. The factory made reproduction Regency furniture alongside the new wave modern glass, plastic and chrome steel furniture. On my first day, a fellow worker came up to me and said, "We all work at the speed of that guy over there," pointing to the oldest worker on the factory floor. We weren't allowed to talk to each other, and the 6-minute tea break at 10 o'clock, having started at 7:30 a.m, was pure paradise. White-coated officials would circulate around with stopwatches and clipboards. Rumour had it that in the early days of the factory, if you so much as looked at the foreman in the wrong way, you'd be given your cards by the afternoon. Bath Cabinet Makers fitted out the luxury liners Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, and a craftsman would have to insert 500 screws in a day and only allowed to go home when the screw box was empty. One of the workers during my stay said, "Why do you want to go upstairs?" referring to the management. "It's us down here who do all the designing, as we understand how the machines work." How true this was, and I didn't actually follow my plan to join the company as a designer after this 3-month production line experience. At the factory, I learned about speed, methodology and making good. On the Regency-style drop-leaf tables, the veneered tops would be pushed through a drum sander. The alignment of the machine was out, and the paper-thin veneers were worn through, exposing the 18mm thick chipboard core. There was a bench where one of the factory operators touched up the exposed patch. One of my favourite pieces made by Arcana was this Danish-style white circular table. I have a version of it to this day. After an arduous 3 months at the factory, I decided to look for a space to create my own furniture designs. And in the next street, I rented a garage at £1 a week from an antiques dealer, and he provided me with an electric cable and free power in return for my mending old chairs. He also sold carpets and furnishings and gave me my first shop window display, where I sold a rocking chair I designed earlier at the Crafts Commune. Later in 1973, I found a proper workshop in the same street with its own electricity supply. It was a converted cattle shed and quite tiny, but what was interesting was its position amongst a complex of small workshops occupied by various craftspeople such as a glassblower, a French polisher, an upholsterer and a Perspex sign writer. This turned out to be a true community as everybody was his own boss, but we all met at Charlie the glassblower's workshop for tea, heated up under his blowtorch. Even the local policeman joined us as he hated being put out on the beat. This informal crafts community just happened like this. It was not planned as a commune, and what I liked about it was the shared energy. Starting at 9 a.m. on a chilly morning on your own was easier when you could hear the tapping of Rick's upholstery hammer in the workshop next door. For me, creative isolation has since proved to be one of the biggest problems to overcome. Rick was a real character and a very spiritual man. I once saw him charm a blackbird onto his hand. In my new workshop, I survived by advertising a general service locally. My motto was "No job is too small," and I had a card printed taking anything on from fitting locks on doors, building shelves to fitting wardrobes and kitchens. In the mid-70s, fitted carpets were becoming standard, and doors needed raising by sawing off an inch or so off the bottom, so I charged £2 per door. A couple of doors covered my rent. And once introduced to the client via the carpet fitter, I went on to fix locks and fit shelves. I then started making simple coffee tables of my own design in setting ceramic tiles that people brought in to me. They were made of pine, using my radial arm saw to cut the wood that was purchased already prepared. I sold the tables at slightly above Habitat prices. I was very much influenced by Habitat, which had taken the high street by storm, breaking through the hidebound styles in the rest of the high street, and my vision was to offer a custom version of Habitat furniture at reasonable prices. But also I was quite unaware of the market challenges that lay ahead and thought word of mouth would be enough. In 1972, at the Glastonbury Crafts Commune, I had designed a rocking chair for a lady to rock her child, and this turned out to be a trademark design for me. Despite early rejections at hawking the chair around various London and West Country shops, I managed to find a home for it in Bath at a gallery that was newly opened and run by a Greek, who financed the gallery by backing horses. He, to my complete surprise, said he liked the chair and would buy one. By this time I was used to endless rejection and "come back when you're famous" comments. Well, this Greek gentleman, whose gallery was situated at the entrance of Europe's most photographed crescent, the Royal Crescent, just happened to sell over 100 chairs, and managed through his charisma to persuade those remotely interested in its unusual lines that although it was primarily a piece of sculpture, it was also comfortable. Amongst my clients for the chair have been several from the medical profession, who remark at the good lumbar support. It was Prince Charles, apparently, who, at a royal viewing of some British furniture in 1982, including, I think there were about 10 pieces, and 2 of which were mine, he remarked that my rocking chair was a little hard on the backside. Well, the idea of using rope in a tennis racket fashion came about because I'm not an expert upholsterer, and the chair looked good in skeletal form. Also, my novel method of weaving rope was simple and really worth experimenting with. This reflected the whole ethos of my low technology approach, dictated by simple economics, in that I relied on a low-cost Black & Decker portable drill. My only other power tool was a cheap jigsaw, and I had the radial arm saw and a museum piece bandsaw. And those drills are still working today. I survived without a planer or thicknesser for 4 years, and what I'm really saying is that my bank manager at the time would not lend me any money, not even 50 quid, and that I had no capital to even consider kitting out properly. My overheads were extremely low, which even today makes good sense, but I was not particularly business minded. Or perhaps I was.